Welcome to the scariest edition of Open Mic Stage. I am your host, Joshua Toback, and I am joined by the enigmatic, the extremely talented, the wonderful Thomas Hale. How are you doing today, my friend?
What a great introduction. I like that. Thank you. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited. It's been a very busy week for me, but it's been an even busier week for you with the release of Cabin Tales episode 2.2.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you listen to it, please let me know what you think. But yeah, thank you. Great
Absolutely.
release. Big week.
Yeah, I'm honestly planning on binging season 2 as soon as it's like ready. Like, like you did the compilation for season 1.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I really want to do that when season 2 fully releases. Just kind of get locked in for that mindset, kind of absorb myself in the Cabin Tales world, the universe, as you've called
Yeah,
it.
for sure. Yeah, that's totally fair, and it's basically how we try to do it right now is with the narrator and everything with the world build that we do outside of the tales.
Hmm.
It's in a way that if you want to binge them or listen to them every monthly, like both work completely, together. So
Hmm.
it's whatever you like. Yeah,
I mean,
that's why we do this.
you've got spin-offs, you've got other projects you're working on. You've just been a machine lately. I mean, I think that's actually going to lead into my first question. How do you
Yeah.
get into your work mindset? Like, how do you like schedule things? How do you say how do I get to point A to point B with your projects?
Mhm. I mean, obviously, it all starts with an idea. You gotta just first of all, you just gotta try. I feel like a lot of the time, people have an idea but don't really try or are too scared to like maybe give it a chance or whatever.
Hmm.
I always go full into everything I do because if I don't do it, I'm never gonna know if it's gonna be worth it or not.
Hmm.
So for first thing is always give it a try. Always give it a chance. But
Hmm.
when it comes to the schedule and everything, it's a little messy. I think we all are. I got a whiteboard next to me. I try to use it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Um, I'm one of a what you call an ADHD kind of person.
Hmm.
So I can get pretty lost in the sauce at times. But yeah, I just try to just keep in the mindset of like work, work, work because for me, this job and what I'm trying to achieve is like it's not my plan A or my plan B or whatever. There is no other plans than
Hmm.
that. So I just go all out all the time. And also I enjoy what I do. So it's easy for me to spend more time working than anything else. Of
Hmm.
course I try to live. I got a life outside of everything, but
Hmm.
yeah, I go really big on my work and I'm aware of that. And I, s- I can feel it at times. I spend a lot of time in the office. I spend a lot of time at the computer, editing, writing, directing. But at the end of the day, when I look at the results, it's all worth it. That's why I do this.
Absolutely. You're chasing that end product, but also enjoying the process. I think that's a really great balance to find.
Yeah,
I actually
I
have
mean, it's very
Mhm.
important.
I have two questions I'd like to ask based on that. How do
Yeah.
you find that balance between work life and non-work life? Like if you have that balance, how do you find it?
Mhm. It wasn't like in a one day kind of situation. It took me some time to figure it out, and I
Mhm.
still am. I think when you're in your 20s, like we all are, trying to chase that dream, we're all a bit of a mess. We can all relate to that. We all feel
Mhm.
messy. We all feel like our head is everywhere all at once, and it still is for me. But I'm constantly working on getting that better every day.
Mhm.
Something that really helped me, weirdly enough, is working out, going to the gym, or like starting running, playing sports, stuff like that. Just to force me to get out of the house, take some fresh air, and move a little bit, really helped. Um,
Mhm.
it brought like it kind of like brought a bit of that balance you were talking about. It because it's you know it requires so much energy when you come back home. You kind of now you're sleepy. It's easier to fix your sleep schedule. It's easier to eat better because you need to eat more and you're
Mhm.
careful about what you're eating. So I think moving, honestly, just being active while also having this job that we're sitting at
We're
this
sitting,
chair
yeah.
every day for hours. So we need to move. So that's definitely one big part of that.
Mhm.
Second part would be just, I think my girlfriend has been really important on that matter.
Mhm.
It's really fun to have, another person that has your back, that's in your corner and not forcing me in a way, but encouraging me to to get out and have fun with our friends and stuff. So
Mhm.
really important to keep a good social life, a good healthy active life. Meanwhile, you're spending so much time at the office, so all three together. But in terms of time, like I'm not it's never going to be perfect. I don't
Mhm.
have like, okay, I do a 9 to 5 today, and then from 6 to 8 I'm at the gym, and then 8 to do. No.
Mm.
And every day is different,
You have to be
especially
fluid.
with the time zones.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's so many things happening all at once. So yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
chasing that balance, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, but I mean, you have been really productive. I mean, between your demo reel services and Cabin Tales and your upcoming film, it feels like, from an outside perspective, it seems like you found a good balance to kind of maintain productivity
Mhm.
while also maintaining your own identity. I think that's really important because,
Well, thank you.
yeah, I think that's the most important thing you can do as a creative is to find that balance between who am I with my creations and who am I as a person. I think you have to be able to separate the two while keeping them together. It's like a
Yeah,
weird kind of balance you have to find.
I agree. I agree completely, for sure.
So let's
And
turn.
I think you can
Mhm.
probably relate on that, right? It
Yeah,
seems that you've been working on your things as well. Like it's a lot of things to balance, but it's all worth it in the end, and you slowly figure it out. And
mhm.
it's just like I said, it's not like the next morning you got it all figured out. No one does.
Yeah. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, all right, here's what I have to do today, and here's what I want to do today. That's
Never the
kind of
same.
that's
Never the same
that's how
thing.
you got to do it.
Yeah.
Like I have to work today, but I also have to work out. That's what I need to figure out as well. I think being active is very important as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the gym or anything. You can like go bouldering. You can just like do anything you want to do, but like just to move a little bit, even do a bit of jogging or even walking. Walking 50 minutes with and blasting that music in your headphones. Just take a breath of fresh air outside. And trust me, it changes everything.
It's a little embarrassing, but my workout, I have to like get a real like workout routine, but my workout routine right now is literally driving to Universal Studios City Walk, walking to the park, walking around for a bit, riding a couple rides, and walking back to my car. So
It's
it's
not
a lot of
embarrassing. That's fine.
it's a lot of walking, but I
Yeah.
also get a churro at the park, so that kind of defeats the purpose, you know.
It's
So
not good. That's your reward. No, that's
yeah.
fine. And in terms of walking, why walking is fine is
Mm.
for the longest time I didn't, but for the longest time I was thinking about buying one of those. What do you call it? It's like a mechanical treadmill. Like
Yeah,
it
like
doesn't
the
have
one
it.
the
It has a very
standing
slow speed.
yeah, the ones on your
Yeah.
desk. Yeah. They're really
Yeah.
expensive though. They're
Yeah.
really
I, yep. That's why I don't have it. I was like,
yeah.
wow, $500 to walk. That's crazy.
500. I saw one
Um,
for 700.
I didn't go that far. I
Yeah.
was looking at the cheap ones. So that means, um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But I want to turn it back on you as a writer.
yeah.
So, how did you kind of get your start? Like what was like the thing that kind of propelled you to be like I want to be a writer?
Okay, so it depends about how far back you want to go.
As far back
uh,
as you feel like it's relevant.
all right. I actually never spoke about this, so hey, premiere here about Thomas Lore. Um, but I was a big. That's crazy. When I was young, I was a big liar.
Mm,
Because I loved like making up stuff because I always felt like fantasy and like the better version of something was always more interesting in real life.
mhm,
So I tended to like kind of like lie on what I used to do or what I'm all about and stuff like that. But when I was very young, like 6 or 7 years old,
mhm.
and to help me with those lies, my mom bought me a notebook, and I was like, and she was like, okay, every single time you have like a new story in mind that you want to tell people, and instead of telling it, just write it down. Get it out of your system in that book. And
Mhm.
so basically, I started writing random stuff in this book when I was like 8 years old. And when I got older and I started to have some interest in maybe like video games and movies and books, stuff like that, that's when I realized, what storytelling is exactly. And so I've been writing stories ever since.
Mhm.
So,
That's yeah.
that's far away. But as a professional,
Mhm.
um, professional, it's a big word, but you know what I mean.
I consider you a
Professionally
professional at
wise,
this point.
oh, thank you. But yeah, professionally, I'd say I started in around like when I was like 17 or 18. Before that, it was all just for fun.
Mhm,
But, I went to college and university in screenwriting and cinema. And
mhm,
that's really where I learned like all the technique and I've got a lot of practice down.
mhm. Wow. And I wanted to actually ask, the follow-up question to that, how did you go from like innocent little fantasy stuff to the eldritch horrors that you write with Cabin Tales? Like,
Um,
how did that pop up?
yeah. Okay. So basically, I've always been a big fan of horror in
Hmm.
general. I think like horror movies are just so fun. They get you that adrenaline boost, and sometimes like the plot can be really dark and like mysterious and keep you on the edge of your seat. And I always like it. You know, people are really into like action movies or stuff like that, but I've just found my adrenaline in horror movies personally from
Hmm.
a very young age. Like I watched the Saw franchise when I was like 12.
Yes.
um and I always understood that it's movies. You know, it never like scared me really, or never traumatized me. I know it's all actors and its effects and everything.
Hmm.
I've kind of like understood that. I'm from a very young age. My very first horror movie is like you know, Alien, the very like first
Yes.
one
Hmm.
with Ripley and everything. So that was my first one. And I don't know, it kind of like always stuck to me that like horror is really interesting. And I don't know why. It's just easier for me to write that.
Hmm.
Why I assume your question was like how I got into maybe writing for Cabin Tales and such.
Yeah, basically, like, how did you get to point A to point B as far as writing Cabin
Hmm.
Tales goes?
Yeah. So yeah, basically that's when I realized I really got into horror.
Hmm.
And then for Cabin Tales, I was already working on another project, on a production that is horror oriented as well. Can't
Hmm.
talk much about it, but you know, I was working on something.
Hmm.
It still is in the works. And the production was going a little slow. And I didn't want to like lose grip on my skills. You know, I wanted to stay like warmed up. I wanted to stay in the mindset of it. So I was like, okay, let me just come up with some random horror stories, write them down just for practice, just for fun, right?
Hmm.
And that's how I wrote the very first story of Cabin Tales that is called Happy Anniversary. That's how I
Oh,
wrote it. Yeah, and
wow.
it was really just for fun. It was nothing, and I realized it was actually quite good. I was like, hey, I like it, and I sent it to a few festivals, like that do like screenwriting competitions and stuff. And I won like a few prizes, got nominated at a few things. It's like, okay, so there's something to this short horror story thing going on here that I can maybe try and use.
Hmm.
And that's when I started to learn about radio plays, you know, like fiction podcasts. I
Hmm.
did not know they were a thing. No clue.
Really?
Yep.
Hmm.
And when I really realized there was a chance to do something with this, I was like, okay. Took that script and I sent it to one of my best friends, Tyler Osborne. I was like,
Hmm.
hey, what do you think about that? And the first thing he said was, "What the f did I just read?" And second thing he sent was his recording of him doing the lines, and that's how Cabin Tale started.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
And I think that, so wait, you had no experience with like Night Vale or anything like that back in
No.
like, wow. So you,
So
mhm,
yeah,
that
I started making some research on a fiction podcast after I won my first prize. That's when I was like,
that's
okay, maybe I could
incredible.
produce it. And
Wow.
you see, I see in the chat someone mentioned No Sleep podcast. It's the very first podcast I found out about. I wrote horror podcast, and that's what came out. So yeah, definitely a big part of that. But yeah.
Wow. That's
Mhm.
amazing. For me, I remember I I've heard of audio dramas before, but I hadn't really like delved into them. Cabin Tales, I think, was definitely one that I had on my radar for a long time. And I remember I got cast in an audio drama as the lead. And then I'm like, all right, I have the script I've been sitting on for a couple years. I want to turn this into audio drama. And that's kind of where Eden came from. So I kind of relate to that in a sense where you're like, I have this idea, I want to write it. I've never done anything like this before. Let's just throw it out there and see what happens, you know? And I've asked a few people to read the script, they all liked it, and it just kind of goes from there. So I'm hoping to follow the same trajectory, but with science fiction instead of horror, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you definitely should, and I'm sure you have the skills to do that. I'm not
Thank
worried
you.
at all. And
I
it's like I said at the beginning, as long as you don't try, you'll never know. Just go for it.
exactly. Actually, I wanted to ask you the patented open mic stage question. I asked this for every single interview, and I wanted to ask you. So,
Yeah.
I have an old friend who came up with this term for basically looking at something you've wrote or something you voice acted and went, ugh, I don't like that. and he called it the cringe barrier. So every single interviewee I ask this question: how do you get over the cringe barrier?
By rewriting it again, basically. Whenever it comes to screenwriting as a writer, your first draft is always gonna suck. It's always gonna be bad, but at least your ideas are on the table now. They're down
Mm,
there. You can't just kind of like rework them on it. But yeah, sometimes it happens that I type like a whole script, I read it, I'm like, nah, that's trash, and I just never read it again, delete it for forever.
mhm,
Will always be our biggest critique. So I mean, getting over the cringe barrier, I don't know.
mm,
I don't actually think I do. I think whenever I go back and I look at what I did and I don't like it, I just go for it again. And maybe I switched the entire story or just write a new one completely.
mhm. Do you think
But I
you can? Mhm.
never go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, do you think you kind of look at things from an objective standpoint when it comes to your writing, or do you look at more of like a subjective, like would I enjoy this, rather than is this objectively good?
Hmm. I would say subjective because honestly, whenever I write the stories, I don't write them with an audience in mind. I write them for
Mm,
myself. If I personally don't like the story and I don't believe in it, why would I assume that anyone else would? So whenever you listen to one of the Scaven Tales episodes, is because I like it. I found pleasure into doing it. Wrote it or co-wrote it or whatever it is that I did is because I found this premise interesting or I found a lot of potential in it. Um, but yeah,
mhm. I think that's a really good point to kind of focus on if you like it. Like if the way I kind of audition is if I would cast myself. You know what I mean? I don't submit until I would
yeah,
say, yeah, I would
absolutely.
cast me for this role.
It's what you need to do.
Mm,
I see that. So, I mean, there are obviously two schools of thought whenever it comes to voice acting and auditions and stuff. Um, you're gonna see a lot of people saying like, make the audition yours. Make
mhm,
it yours and do this or that, do whatever. D- And there are some other people that could be like, no, follow the guidelines. Be safe, make it real or whatever. La la. um I am on the first school of thought. I think you should make an audition authentic. You should make an audition special.
mhm,
You don't want to sound like the other 100 that listened before you. Make the character yours. Give me your interpretation of the scene. What do you think?
mhm,
Would sound well to that. If you were to be not a voice actor and only a listener, what is a performance that you would hear as this character and go like, wow, that's impressive.
mhm,
If you don't impress yourself, I don't know, maybe try again.
mhm. I think that's a great way of looking at it because you are your own worst critic, but you can also be your own best fan. I think that's what a lot of people don't
Yeah,
realize. You can be your biggest supporter. You don't have to be against yourself all the time.
but I think it's absolutely fair. I'm not saying like, oh, you're doubting yourself. Don't. It's easy. Done. It's not as simple. Obviously, I'm just saying like you should always deliver something you believe in.
Mhm,
If you only follow the guidelines and you record it and you're like, whatever, that was cringe, send and forget, you're not going to hear back from it. Try again. Do something that you like. Do something authentic that comes from you.
mhm,
I think that's the main thing. It's what I listen to when I listen to Cabin auditions. I don't listen to like, okay, do they do the voice I was thinking of when I wrote it? No, impress me. Show me what character you had in mind when you read these lines. What would you do? What do
mm.
you come up with?
Like, how
Obviously,
would you
everything is
say this
different.
line rather than how would I hear it?
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm,
every genre is different. I'm more on the interactive side, right?
mm,
I'm not like an animation or character. It's much more interactive and grounded. So I'm more focused on the acting chops, on the emotional scale, rather than the voice tone. I think if you fit the age gap I'm saying here, you have the right accent or whatever, if one is required, but you nail down those emotional points I was looking for, of course I'll consider it. Why would I not? It's
mhm.
awesome. But yeah,
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to touch on voice acting a little bit more, but I have one more writing based question for you. So I
yeah,
know you can't talk about it very much, so I'm going to use kind of like vague terms for this. What's the big difference between writing for an audio series and writing for film?
yeah. I mean, obviously, the writing itself is different.
Mhm.
If you listen to like an audio series, it's only audio. You have no visuals. You don't have anything that can help you. Um, so when you're writing for an audio series, you need to think about doing something that people will easily, how should I say this? Not that they easily understand what's going on, but you need to give them something to hold on to, because not everyone has the same capacity at imagining things than others. Like
Mhm.
some people are just gonna like get it immediately
Yeah.
and create everything in their mind, and some others just need more of a guideline. And you need to consider that when writing one. I think having a narrator is very important in audio series,
Mhm.
but I wanted to do it in a different way for Cabin Tales, for example. Like my characters themselves narrate instead of having an out of scene narrator, which
Yeah.
I think is more interesting to me, at least, of course, because it's how I did it.
Mhm.
But yeah, just always give them something to hold on to. While for a film, it's very different because you have visuals, so you can show something without saying it. You can be much more abstract, more subtle in
Mhm.
everything you do. So it changes the type of writing entirely.
Mhm.
And it even leaves room for a bit of improvisation when it comes to the performances.
Mhm. I actually have a funny story about that. So, when I was first coming up with Eden, like when I was like, all right, I have the script ready. I want to revise it one more time. I actually ran a poll on Twitter saying like, hey guys, think about doing this audio drama. Should I have a narrator? I got 30 votes. All 30 of them said yes. So I'm like, oh, because I hadn't written, I hadn't wrote a narrator in yet. But it turns out I
Yeah.
actually had stage directions wrote. I wrote stage directions, and I had basic descriptions of everything. So I kind of rewrote those and turned that into the narrator. So,
Oh, that's good. Yeah. See,
mhm.
clever way.
Yeah, it was
That works.
thank you. It was a way for me to kind of just say, "Hey, I still want to make this a film one day, but I also have a narrator here now." So I
Yeah.
totally understand that, wanting to take a creative spin on having a narrator, because I think you need someone to describe something to you, especially
Yeah.
like with an audio series where it's all visual. You need to be able to visualize what's happening,
Could not
and
agree more.
I think Cabin Tales does an excellent job of that.
No,
So,
thank you.
I want to touch on you a bit more with Thomas Halle Productions. I know you offer
Mhm.
demo reel services to people, and I think you do a wonderful
Yes.
job. The reels you've put out are nothing short of immaculate.
Thank you.
Um, I wanted to ask the first question about your demo reels. What's one piece of advice you give someone before asking for a demo reel? Like before they think they're ready?
Um, build some experience, build some confidence, learn about your own voice. It's not because you grew with it that you know everything about it. You could surprise yourself. You could surprise yourself with the range that you can achieve. But you need to do that before getting into a demo reel. You need to really go in the depths of your own voice and your talent and really explore yourself, because yeah, it's really the big thing here, especially like in emotional beats. Try to be as angry as you can, try to be as sad as you can, try to be as funny as you can, try to be all of that.
Hmm.
Get some workshops done, go to a few coaches here and there. You would, if you've never done it before, you're going to be really surprised of how helpful it is.
Hmm.
Even like the biggest actors, they all have acting coaches and they all go to classes every now and then. It's normal,
Hmm.
just touch base, have a professional's opinion, get, get like challenged a little bit by someone, because you're always going to be your biggest critique. And also, without someone pushing you to your limits, you never really will. So
Hmm.
yeah, learn more about yourself, learn about your voice. And then when it comes to like, oh, you need at least 5 or 10 roles or this or that, I don't think that's true.
Hmm.
I think it's about confidence. I think it's about knowing more about yourself. And when you feel like you're ready, maybe meet a coach, tell them you think you're ready. They'll test you, they'll
Hmm.
push you to their limits and they'll let you know.
I think getting to know your voice is the most important thing a voice actor can do, because it helps understand their range. It helps understand what they're comfortable doing. Like,
Hmm.
I think that's so important, and I think that's really wonderful advice. Um, I want to ask you, as a demo reel producer, what is your favorite thing you look for when making a demo reel? Like, what's the thing that makes you go, "Oh, this one's gonna be so good"? Like, do you have a specific like example, or do you have anything that you look for when making a reel?
The chemistry with someone. I think whenever I meet them for the first time, I always like to have a call with them. We talk a little bit about what they want to do, what they need, and everything. And if I just feel the vibe, I feel the connection with one another, I just know we're going to work well together. I know they'll be
Mhm.
able to be pushed to the limits. It's fun when you have someone that is good with criticism, that is open to, exploring more options every now and then, and that they don't get down on themselves, stuff like that. I think this is where I personally thrive the most because I'm not necessarily like a very picky person, but I at the same time I have to be.
Yeah.
If you want this reel to sound good, I'm gonna need to push you because you're gonna need to go hard. There's
Mhm.
a lot of really talented voice actors out there. If you want to put yourself in a good light, you need to go hard as well because they are right now.
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel like the vibe, really the
Mhm.
chemistry with someone is super important. And a little favorite pick for me, I love the interactive reels. I love everything that is more around like terms of video games and more cinematic reads.
Mhm.
Those are my favorites because it's what I do for a living as well. I write for films and I write for audio series. Very interactive stuff. Which I mean, I'll assume for someone that doesn't know what interactive or animation, the big difference is that interactive is something like I said, grounded, realistic, some unpredictable pacing, very emotional beats. When it comes to animation reel, it's more controlled in terms of pacing. It's more theatrical, overwhelming in colors and character presence, which is also very fun. But yeah, I got a little soft spot for the interactive ones.
Mhm. I think my first reel that like I really went all out for was an animation reel, and my next one is going to be an interactive reel, just because I love voicing characters. I love as much as the next guy, but I also really like voicing scenes, and I think you have to know what you're comfortable voicing before
Hmm.
you kind of get it. You have to know yourself, like what am I comfortable with.
Yeah,
So,
I mean it's what every demo reel producer is gonna ask you anyway when you get to
mhm,
that call. For the first question I'm gonna ask you is, what do you want to do? What do you want to showcase? You know yourself better than I do.
mhm,
And if you don't, there's the first problem. You really need to explore yourself. It's okay if you don't know what kind of characters you want to do, but you at least need to know what your strengths are.
mhm,
You know what? I'm really good with anger. I want to do a bit of anger. I want to do a bit of sadness. I don't know, I want to showcase I got a really good southern accent, but like really, really good.
mhm,
Awesome. Let's explore that. But yeah,
mhm,
yeah, and I see someone saying I've been practicing VA for 2 years, but you never give up. That's all good.
mhm,
How many years it takes, it doesn't matter. If it takes 6 months, if it takes 3 years, whatever you do, all good. There is no due date. There is no specific timeline. We all have a different journey.
mhm. I know voice actors who start in their 30s. Like, one of the leads I just
Hmm.
cast for Eden hadn't started till she was 30, and she could have
There you
fooled
go.
me because I mean, good lord, that's the important thing. There's no that I really want to harp on that. There's no start date and there's no end date. You can do it how as long as you want, whenever you want, and start whenever you want. Just get comfortable with
Absolutely.
yourself. Get over that cringe barrier, you know?
Hmm.
So,
The
yeah.
cringe barrier. Yeah.
Yeah, I should make a shirt about that. Anyway, final question. Final question before
Sure.
we open up the floor. If you could give any piece of advice specifically for writers, what could you give them just starting out and why?
Mm. I mean, honestly, like I said, for first thing I would say is your first draft is not going to be it, and that's okay. If you're writing it, you doubt yourself, just keep going. Write everything, have everything down, and then you can come back to it and read it and be like, oh, wow, that's terrible, but it has some good ideas. Good. Now the real work begins. It's part two. You do a V2, V3, V4, etc. But the first draft, don't trust it. And it's fine if it's not perfect. It's never going to be. So that would be my first thing. And second thing would be, there are no bad ideas. Just try it. Just try it. Stanley was told that Spider Man was a bad idea because superheroes aren't supposed to struggle. So, nothing is a bad idea, in my opinion.
Mhm. I think that's a great example to pull from, and thank you so much for bringing that up. Spider-Man, I think, motivates a ton of voice actors that I know, so
Of
I
course.
can't imagine a world without him.
Me neither. There you go.
Thank you so much. All right, and that brings us to our Q&A section. If anybody's got any questions, raise those hands, and I'll bring you up on stage. But I just want to say, Thomas, thank you so much for coming by and answering my questions. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure so far.
Yeah, of course. No, it was my pleasure. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me, and always fun to talk about the industry. It's always fun to give a little advice every now and then. It's exciting times
For
for sure.
sure. We live in a very as you know, intimidating as it might be to be online right now and to make new content. I think that there's always going to be a space for creatives, as much as there might not like look like it right now. I think there's always going to be a space for new creatives to step up and present their ideas and present their
Mhm.
voices. So, bet
I
no better
agree.
time to start than now, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with, so many voice actors that are waiting for remote work. You have such a great roster at your availability.
Mhm.
Writing has never been easier. So many free programs out there.
Mhm.
There's so many things that you can help can help you to get started. So many free sound effects or anything. You like doing
Yeah.
audio series can pretty much cost you nothing
Mhm.
if you do your research. But yeah, I
Yeah, it's
cannot
just
agree more.
it's wonderful. It really is wonderful to just make something and kind of like release it and just let people hear it and or see it. It's just the best feeling. But
Hmm.
if anybody's got any questions, don't be shy. Raise those hands. You can use the raise your hand feature, and we will drag you up on stage. We will yank you like an old cartoon character using a cane to like grab somebody. We'll like yank you, and you can come up on stage and ask any question. Oh, we have a question. All right, let's bring you up. Hello.
Um, Hello. Sorry if I'm a bit shy. This is my kind of first time getting up on stage like this, especially with people way, way like better in my range. And sorry if I have like bad English. English isn't my first language.
Me neither. It's all good.
Mhm.
um, right. Well, Thomas, what do you think about like the fan base so far? The Cabinet fan base, the fan base you've created so far. Like people on Twitter, people on YouTube, people on like how is it so far? Are there any bad experiences, good experiences so far?
No, there are no bad experiences. I think it's really fun. I'm very grateful that so many people are listening and looking at Cabin Tales and finding this joy in it because I find joy in creating it. So no, it's awesome, and I see a lot of
That,
what
that's
really
amazing.
amazes me is like the fan art because there are no visuals on Cabin Tales and people just come up with these. They draw the characters
Mhm,
from their imagination about how they pursued them. It After hearing them, and usually like most of the time, like maybe 90% of the time, it's how I was
mhm.
imagining them as well. So it's like, wow, that's crazy. No, I think it's awesome.
That,
I didn't have any
that
any bad experiences.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, since I'm still kind of a beginner voice actor myself, Um, I want to get into like maybe fan dubs or anything like that because I know most like voice actors got into that because of fan dubs.
Mhm.
But I'm really extremely shy to like put my voice out or say anything because what if I'm too squeaky? What if I'm too high pitched? What if I'm yada yada yada?
Yeah.
Like, and I have a fear that my voice is not the perfect one for like my experience, there's like this is kind of like stupid, but there's like a Japanese game Project Sekai. People are making like fan dubs of like English fan dubs,
Mhm.
and they're to be completely honest with you guys, the like it's mainly created by like minors like me, but those they are judgy.
Mhm.
They are
I'll say
extremely judgy.
I'll say this, there's never going to be the perfect voice, it's going to be the right voice. I think a lot of people have to understand that there's no such thing as a perfect voice. And as far as
Mm-hmm.
like fan dubs go, a lot of people don't talk about this, but OMS is a space where we can talk about all levels of voice acting. Fan dubs are completely
Mm-hmm.
fine as long as you're under an alias. And also, if you just want to do them privately, you don't have to release them. You could just like record it, set it to like the footage you're doing, and then take a look at it and see how you feel. Compare it to the original and see what they did versus what you did. There's behind the scenes stuff all the time on dubs. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
get used to hearing your own voice. That's a really important thing. Because like,
Right,
and I
right.
want to repeat myself. There is no such thing as a perfect voice. There's the wrong voice for the role and the right voice for the role. That does not mean it's good or bad. So,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Right.
Nas said,
Okay.
you really can't please everybody. So You definitely look all over the internet. Practice as much as
Mhm.
possible and just have fun. This is fun. Voice acting should be fun, you know?
Exactly, exactly. I I personally got into voice acting because me and my friends have been doing like role play, voice role play, and because of that, I was like, hey, let me try to do this as like a hobby. I enjoy doing this,
Mhm.
but it's because from what I've seen from like the community or so that my motivation of doing it kind of lowered. I was like, oh god, I have to like high standards. Do I have to like do I
Not if
have to
you're
be on a
just
high pedestal?
Yeah, not if you're just starting out. I mean, people are understanding if you're just starting out. You might not like book everything right away,
Mhm.
but I mean that's part of the process is getting used to rejection, getting used to getting constructive criticism. You have to learn to grow a specific way when you're voice acting. I mean, Thomas, how do you feel about
Yeah.
kind of the growth of voice actors?
I mean, one thing you're never gonna outgrow is yourself. I think you're always gonna be your biggest critique, and you need to find a
Mhm.
way to tell you to shut up. You need to shut down those voices and just go for it.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
you're not gonna regret it. I don't think there's a better feeling than not putting your work out there and then listening to it and be like, oh my god, that's me. It doesn't matter what
Mhm.
everyone says. Just the fact of you doing it, you're already doing it more than anyone else who wouldn't have dared to do it. So that's a big step.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. Well, thank you for asking
um,
those questions. I appreciate it.
of course, of course, of course. It's been a pleasure. Of course.
Anytime. All right. Awesome sauce. We got some good questions here. All right. Any other questions, everybody? Don't be shy. Come on up. Don't be shy now. We don't bite. Or yeah, we don't bite.
We don't bite. I try not to
Yeah.
usually.
All right, Xander has a question. Let's bring him up.
There you go.
Hi,
Xander.
how you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing good, man. How about you?
Good. I'm all right. I'm all right. I wanted to ask because you mostly work on audio dramas. How is that process different from like the normal sort of voice acting process? Because I know you're not focused on visuals or anything. You just kind of have your cast speak based on how you feel that they should.
Yeah. So you're kind of asking me how I usually direct them. What is like my directive and what I try
Yeah.
to achieve? Is that right? Yeah, sure. So I mean, it really depends on the character, right? Some characters are more colorful than others, but for the natural narrative of the whole thing, I tend to go for, like I said, something very grounded, something very realistic, something you feel like you could remove on your headphones and it's just a conversation you hear outside. Because to me, at least Cabin Tales or any other sort of like audio series, I try to make them as like a movie without visuals. So I usually ask my actors to tone down their character play and just focus on delivery and making it realistic and emotional on the right beats. Making it unpredictable, really playing with it, improvising a little bit, making the whole scene yours is what
Mm.
I usually ask them to do. I do live directions with them. So, we record together like as if we were talking right now. And that's how I usually direct them through it because yeah, I mean it's just a natural flow that I enjoy, especially when it comes to horror. I feel like um to me like an audience can maybe like smell the BS sometimes a little bit, if it's like too exaggerated, that like they're too scared or they're too breathy or too much, you just tone it down and you make it pop at the right moments is what I would say. But yeah, it's just something grounded
Mhm.
as if you were to direct like an anime or something else like that with visuals, especially like in cartoons and animation, when the character is very like moving or oh my god, emotional and stuff like that, you need to match the energy of what you're seeing in screen. So that's why they need to go bigger.
Mm.
But since in audio we don't have that, we can pretty much do anything we want.
Mhm.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't
No
have
problem.
any. I'm like I said, this is my first audio drama that I'm working on right now, so I'm still
Mhm.
learning how the big differences between visuals and solely audio. So
Yeah.
I think what's fun about it, from my experience, is just kind of like having someone read, put someone in that place. Like I think
Yeah.
the reason why the winner of the last open mic Mockdition won was because they put me in a scene with their read. Like Universe put me in a scene with his read, and that's really important for an audio drama, is to put your listener in the scene with your reads. That's how, and from a grounded standpoint, that's really important because it kind of makes you feel like you're a part of the
Absolutely.
conversation. And I think it's really important to have your performances help people visualize what you want them to see.
Are you a voice actor, Xander?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've done
How
one
will
drama.
you've done a drama before?
One, yeah.
How did you approach it?
Um, there wasn't much direction given to me for it. So I just kind of took it based on the vibe of the character and just kind of, because it was kind of just a like explaining, info dumping for it. So I just kind of did it as if I was reading off a list, but also trying to keep that natural feel for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, there you go. See, there are no secrets for you, my friend. There it is. You just do what naturally sounds fit to you. If it fits the scenery, it fits the emotion. You've been selected for a reason, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, just keep going with that. Keep going with your instincts, especially in audio series. Do your thing.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for asking such a great question. All right. The audience. Awesome. How you feeling, Thomas?
Feeling good, feeling good.
Awesome.
I got maybe time for one or two more if there are any.
I think we have time for one more because,
Yeah.
we have time for one more. Don't be shy now. Raise those hands. Yeah. But how you feeling? Are you having a good time?
Yeah, of course I am. Of course I am. This is fun. This is fun.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've done one of those. It's been like a couple months, I'd say
Mhm.
at least. Latest one I did was like I think right when Cabin Tales launched. I was invited to like 3 at the same time, but all of the same day, so I had to pick one. But that was fun. I did that. I did another one. Was it? But it they didn't deliver it in an audio aspect. It was more like a written
Mhm.
interview, but also some fun questions there. But yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Mhm. I like doing these audio interviews because there's almost a sense of improvisation with them. Like the
Yeah.
way I do it is I have questions written down, but I also kind of I let people answer them and then I kind of bounce off them. So that's the way. It's like a podcast in a sense, It's a conversation less than an interview.
Yeah, yeah. It's what I had in mind as well. So that's why I hope I didn't sound like I was too yapping too much. I
No.
figured it was more like in a podcast format, so I'll
Yeah.
just get yapping.
It's the open mic stage. It's the podcast, basically.
There you go. My
I
mic was open.
I have one final question for you, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the future looking like for you? If there's anything you're like allowed to talk about, what's the future
Mhm.
looking like for you?
Yes, so I'll talk about what I can talk. Cabin Tales, it's still going. I don't know for how long. I obviously the whole entirety of season 2. Hopefully season 3 and hopefully season 4. Hopefully, never stops. But yeah, for now, Cabin Tales season 2. We'll see for the rest.
Mhm.
When it comes to movies, I'm working on a movie called Redbox. Hopefully, I'll get to talk about that very soon. But yet to have released a cast or anything, I'm being a little secretive on that one.
Mhm.
And in the past, I've worked on a visual novel called Not So Secret. It's coming back. The Not So Secret Academy is coming back. And yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? I've been getting a few opportunities in writing and video editing, audio mixing for some companies. Maybe do a bit of that. We'll see. We'll stay busy. That's what we need in this line of business.
Absolutely.
This line of work. We want to be busy.
Never a dull moment.
There you go. That's what I'm aiming for. I like to work. I like my job. I like this life. So I'm going all out until the world is sick of me. I'll just keep going.
I don't think that'll be for any. I don't think that'll be for any time soon, for sure.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I want to keep going.
All right. Well, I will call it there. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out. I think it was a very, very cool opportunity, and I'm glad to have met some new people today. This is very fun stuff.
Absolutely. And thank you all for coming by today. This has been the open mic stage,
Yeah.
and we will see you next time.
Bye bye.